Welcome to the Digital Analytics Power Hour. 3 analytics pros and the occasional guest discussing digital analytics issues of the day. Find them on Facebook at facebook.com/analytics hour. And now, the Digital Analytics Power Hour.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Digital Analytics Power Hour. This is episode 34. You know, the concept of a lobby bar started at a conference, this exact conference. And it was a location where all of us data nerds and visualization specialists and storytellers and miscreants and all got together. And if the sessions are sort of the bricks, the lobby bar is the mortar. And it kind of gave us a chance to go up to our favorite speaker and ask the question, what did you mean when you said that? Or sit next to somebody who just so happened to share the same exact problem that you thought was unique to just you and your company's struggles. And so the lobby bar became this place and sort of an institution. And along the way, 3 friends met. And in seeking to recreate that experience, we created the Digital Analytics Power Hour. You know, and in full awareness of the meta-ness that this is, where we're now taking the lobby bar and trying to stick it into an actual session, I want to introduce you to my other 2 co-hosts. I'm Michael Helbling. I lead analytics at Search Discovery. And I want to bring to the stage right now and give him a warm welcome, because it's very cold where he comes from. It's Jim Kane. He is the CEO of Napkin and Babbage Systems. And rounding out our roster is a guy who needs no introduction, but you might not recognize him because of his shaggy mane of hair. It's Tim Wilson, senior partner at Analytics Demystified. And I'm excited to announce that we have a special guest on this episode of the podcast. You. So Thank you so much for being with us today, and we are excited to hang out with you. You know, I don't know if we've got some extras, so if you have a glass, you know, just come get some after.
Come and get it during.
Let's hang out. We've been sort of
Saps listening to it while you're running, thinking the last thing you want is bourbon while you're jogging.
We'll start this off. We've got some questions that I'm going to put to the team, but bring your questions and we'll just have a conversation about analytics a la the lobby bar. So let's do it.
I feel like this is going to be the mortar that holds the bricks of the whole event together.
Yeah.
I think.
Somebody tweet that. All right, guys. All right, here we go. Transitioning successfully to the other microphone. Now, since I'm holding my beverage, I can't open my notebook, but it's okay. My beverage is more important than that. Let's throw it out to you guys right away. What have you heard this week that was intriguing? Or what have you not heard this week that would have intrigued you?
So this is the second or third eMetrics where I really enjoyed the eMetrics sessions, and I wish I was smart enough to go to predictive analytics.
Oh, wow.
No, we're not all dumb. I'm dumb. Because some of the sessions, the titles are cool, and then I sneak in, and it feels like I'm getting an ice cream headache, and then I come back to the eMetrics events. So it's not that we're not doing interesting topics in this one, but it's that I would love to see a little bit more crossover than the standard one person from each goes over, because there should be, they're next door. They're doing a lot of the same things, but where we use a hammer, they might use a nuclear warhead or R or whatever it is that they do.
But the guys at the door are like checking like crazy. It is tough to. I had trouble getting into my own session to speak. I got like stopped and grilled, and it was rough.
That was one thematic element. There was much better door security this year.
Door security was amazing.
So
might have been the hair. I just looked like an unsavory character. Yeah, a theme that I was.
Get a haircut, you hippie.
My hair got longer, and Rochelle, 5 Feet of Dynamite's hair got shorter. I thought there was a theme, which I don't think the session wasn't didn't have the session this time that was the like 3 frameworks for doing analytics, but the different sessions going through, and there were a lot of sort of frameworks of kind of how to approach analytics, and I don't think it was earth-shattering. I sort of was, and I present sort of a framework in my session. So I did sort of it hit me that it's nobody has the right framework. Like any framework will work, but it seems like a lot of people who have had success have said this is kind of how I structure and organize what I do, and that seemed like for me a little that's kind of nice. Everybody has to organize how they're approaching things.
And I think something that stuck out to me was I was hearing a lot more about data storytelling this week than I think I've heard in other eMetrics, and maybe I'm just out of the loop, but many sessions and really useful content. I learned about, what are they called? Small multiples?
Small multiples.
Yeah.
2 sessions at least mentioned them, I think.
I've seen them before, never used them. Thanks, Leah Pika. And yeah.
And Ryan Sleeper.
He was, you won a visualization prize with a small multiple. That's pretty awesome. So yeah, I thought data storytelling, that was kind of interesting, and it's kind of emerged again and again for me.
So as a quick little aside, when we actually normally record this, it's been a challenge to get the audio correct when we're 3 guys in remote places. Is Michael fading a little bit because he keeps doing this kind of walking away from his mic?
I talk with my hands, I mean, I can't help it.
I was, one thing that I really missed, and I was kind of shocked, is that nobody actually highlighted that it was the year of mobile, unless I just missed that session. So, I don't know. I think that was last year. Maybe we're just waiting until it really comes.
Are there industry challenges? So you guys have been in the industry for a long time. Are there industry challenges that we're not facing today that we used to face in the past?
I think we have a lot more executive buy-in. I mean, this is like a recurring theme on the show, right? But we have legacy customers where we would fight to get something, whether it's technology stack or dashboarding or people buying into analysis. And we would fight to kind of get it to trickle up. And we're seeing even in some of those customers, now the C-suite is going, oh, shit, we were doing that already? Great. Now I care. Now you're allowed in the boardroom. So I find it much easier to get executive sponsorship for this kind of work right now.
I agree with that. I think there's also we're having to do a whole lot less hacking with the platforms because the maturity of the different platforms, both for capturing the data, so think your Google Analytics or your Adobe Analytics, your storage of the data is also gotten more sophisticated. We've got BigQuery and Hadoop and these other things, and then even the accessing the data. Tableau wasn't around. I don't know when was Tableau audience participation. Ryan, when was Tableau founded? Let's just say you can't hear it on the mic. He gave the correct answer, and you listening at home can Google. So I think that the tool set is there's now more tools as opposed to we used to say how can we hack calls going to Adobe or to Google Analytics. How can we manage this data? How can we work with our IT team to develop a data warehouse that's in Oracle with a schema that we can access? I think there's a lot less of that because there's been advances in kind of handling the volume and complexity of data as well as accessing it.
I haven't had to log into WebTrans in about a year for anyone, so that's a win.
Only a year?
It's been a long time since I had a vendor panel at eMetrics. Yeah. You know what else is interesting, and I think it's been a change that's been ongoing, but maybe we can do like a little thing. How many people here are practitioners working for a company?
We needed this by audio.
By a show of hands.
No, a show of hands? Are you fucking kidding
Nobody?
me?
What are the other options?
Do you do analytics?
A show of feet, please.
Yeah. Show.
All right. Okay. There we go.
Can we do an applause meter?
Yeah, applause meter. We'll add that in post.
We'll just.
Okay. So how many of you that raised your hands would raise your hands again to say, I'm the only one at my company who does this? All right. Well, actually, that was some more than I thought. So, all right.
Okay, for everybody who raised their hand, the first question, which was, do you do analytics?
Yeah, are you an analyst?
Can you applaud? Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I've listened to live recorded podcast shows before. For everybody who you're the only person doing analytics, can you applaud? so it's fewer.
If you think Tim's on a power trip and he just likes making you do stuff,
Yeah.
feel free to raise your hands and applaud. Applaud in the air.
There you go. No, but one of the things is there's, back in the good old days, most of us were individuals trying to get analytics up and running by ourselves at whatever company we were at, no matter how big it was. And you see more and more teams of people, groups of people coming and being part of that. So there's more, like, I think it goes back to what you said, Jim. There's more investment in the industry, but there's more people now in the industry. Not nearly enough people. I'll just make that clear. But I think that's one thing I've seen change.
I mean, I think I was an individual. You were an individual. We do have a double CEO. I think he was always kind of a split personality. So you might have been.
I'm a multiple.
You were a multiple.
Yeah.
You was a small multiple.
Ooh, nice. Brought it back. All right. So we've talked about challenges we don't face anymore. Have we created new ones?
I mean,
Are there new challenges that we weren't running into before?
I mean, the easy ones that we used to just analyze the website, right? And now no one is talking about, no one is accepting or saying that we can just analyze the website, because the buzzword bingo, the consumer experience has become much more fragmented across multiple channels and devices. And
It was like as if Rand Fishkin was on this very stage saying engagement was, yeah.
That was actually interesting in Rand's session, that all of a sudden he was saying it's all about engagement. And I feel like social media, kind of from a different perspective, like he was like, he's got evidence that says if you want to drive your SEO, like engagement, and here's why. Because the machine is saying if you take an action, this stuff is relevant and appropriate. And I feel like social media, for a while, it went from, number of fans to reach and impressions to engagement, and now it's kind of, who the hell knows for social media. So it was kind of, I'm used to seeing engagement with a big old X, like the social media guys saying it's not engagement. So it was kind of refreshing to say, there's a place where, like, very specific. It's not I'm using engagement as a soft and fluffy thing to try to value why I'm doing something. Rand was saying engagement literally is kind of where it's at for getting organic traffic. Anything?
New problems?
Well, I just think it's the inverse of the old problems. Or, I was saying now that there's executive buy-in. So when we were drinking in the lobby bar, I think the first time was eMetrics New York, 5 years ago?
Who knows?
Three of us? Yeah.
I blacked out.
Because we were intoxicated.
I don't recall, but yeah.
But the standard complaint at the bar was, no one listens to me. Like, I did all this work, I found this awesome thing, no one's listening.
Be careful what you wish for.
Well, and now people are listening. So, you get that response where it's like, I really like where you're going here, but you added it up wrong. You didn't catch something. So now, like, before it was, how do I get someone to listen? And now it's, how do I get someone to QA what I just did? Because they're listening, and I don't want to get pinned to the wall if I'm wrong, right?
And back in my day, you could get away with analysis in Excel. Now you have to learn cool new tools like Tableau and stuff like that. I'm getting left behind.
And R.
Yeah.
And then the CEO makes you rebuild it in Excel.
All right. Well, we've gone to the Twitter sphere because we want to be good listeners. And we've got some questions that came in. So this one's from Justin Goodman, Analytics Pros. DAA Rising Star finalist, Justin Goodman. So,
Electric Mice. At Electric Mice,
yeah.
Justin Goodman.
So, yeah, give it up. All right. So this question, this is for Jim Kane. No, actually, it's for all of you. But how do you differentiate reports, dashboards, and analysis to clients?
I use the subject line of the email to say report or dashboard or analysis.
That's an answer. Maybe not what he's looking for. Okay.
You want to swing?
You
Go
want
ahead.
another?
Yeah, I mean, I
you
don't
do the
mind.
Hollywood Squares. All right.
To go to the session right before us, a lot of it is in the design and what people are expecting to see, right? So the way that we would send out a report to a stakeholder is a little bit different than the way that we would design and provision a dashboard, and it's a little bit different than we would design and deliver analysis, right? So an analysis could be in the body of the email. A dashboard better not be, So I think it's more design cues than quality or content?
I think I will coach them a little bit definitionally. That to me, and I think it's the sort of, this is like total lobby bar type, the heated debate about what's a report versus what's analysis. And I definitely think
we've come to blows on this before. Yeah,
it was.
Yeah.
That's where Jim's a nimble little one.
He's very scrappy.
Very scrappy.
Very scrappy.
But to me, a dashboard, I tend to even label them when I'm delivering them as performance measurement. Like, this is your one page ish, snapshot view, clearly understandable, well designed. The data may change, but the layout doesn't. This is aligning with your business. That's all it is. It's not insights. It's not recommendations. It is low latency. It is, you need to have a pulse on what's going on with the business. Reports, to me, are recurring, and there is some operational need for, I manage our internal search site. I need to get a list of all the terms with these metrics, and I need to be able to interact with it a little bit, but it also needs to be automated and recurring, but tied to a very specific task or need. And then, to me, analysis is definitionally ad hoc. When somebody says, can we redo that analysis? I'm like, why? Like, if we did the analysis right, we validated a hypothesis, and we're moving on to the next thing. So that's how I will speak to clients about it, but I also sort of try to avoid the discussion, because that people will talk about, like, well, your report doesn't include any analysis. So it's like it's one of those where you can wind up in this semantic discussion that's just kind of frustrating and annoying. So
analysis has the most words in it. Reports have less words, and there shouldn't be a whole lot of words in a dashboard. Like, could we do that?
Possibly. I mean, I think lots of things get labeled as analysis that aren't grounded in the hypothesis. So
yeah, I think you present analysis as part of either research or insight generation, whereas the other two are something probably happening on a more consistent basis, or consistent sort of cadence.
You guys caught that Jim Stern came up and got himself some bourbon, right? Quick, by a round of applause, how many people drink bourbon? Okay, all you got to do is find a receptacle. We're not going to call you out.
Why don't we give away one and take a question?
I'm taking a red eye tonight, and I'm not going to.
Well, we're about to. We have one more Twitter question. Yeah, take it. Thank you.
Ooh,
right. Yeah,
there you
no, you can. You can
actually just pass it around. Pass it around.
It's weird for people to have to come up and get it, so it's better that way. Great. So this one's for you, Tim, because it's super hard. It's from Mike Harmanos. He says, "What's the most effective way you've explained multivariable analysis to someone? Preferably that someone's not like a 5-year-old."
I actually see if I made any connections with somebody at Predictive Analytics World, and then defer the question to them. I don't know. I mean, to me, I assume the question is kind of, how do you explain something like interaction effects? And I think it's not so much an explain as a show.
Yeah, I mean, because that's it. Analysis is fundamentally, right, figuring out the difference between two things.
Yeah.
What we do is we can kind of boil it down like that. And when it's multivariable, then, it's how do those things all interact to explain the difference between those two things.
So, I guess my answer is I show, and I'll spend a lot of time on there are lots of things.
If only we'd done a show on this with someone who's an expert in one-armed bandits. And
if only
If only we could recite. Matt Gershoff from Conductrix was on a fantastic show.
Yeah, all right. Well, we've got some more questions, but I feel like we're ill-using this awesome crowd. Let's ask you guys, what's going on at eMetrics for you? What have you heard? What do you have questions about? Tim Wilson's actually very smart, and Jim Kane and I
Despite your impression from anything I've said from the stage.
So you can ask anything, and we'll have an opinion.
First two questions get a data-driven business cup of some kind with chocolate in it. That you can put liquor in.
Also, you can claim to have been a guest on the Digital Analytics Power Hour, the only explicit analytics podcast on iTunes.
Put it in your LinkedIn profile.
Come on.
Oh,
there we go.
We're starting. Somebody had to break the
Actually,
ice.
how many people have listened to a podcast in the last week by round of applause? Curious. Okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually have a question until I got the mic, but I'm going to make up a question on the spot just to keep things going.
Rochelle Meisner,
You're our kind of person.
Did come up and get the bottle of bourbon that was sitting on the front of the stage, and maybe it goes to her head really quick.
Okay, so if you're hiring for an analyst, what is the key thing you're looking for today?
You're the HR guy.
I don't have to hire analysts.
Yeah,
Michael.
so I guess as the person who is the most always hiring person on the stage right now.
Go to searchdiscovery.com/careers for...
It's a great place. I love it.
Looking for a career indoors?
It depends on, I think it depends on a lot of things, and you probably know this too. Obviously, if you're looking, what level of experience you're looking for, you probably are looking for certain things. But fundamentally, beneath any analytics skill set, there's three things that I'm trying to figure out about a person when I'm interviewing them for a role as an analyst or someone in digital analytics. The first is problem-solving competency. So how do they approach solving a problem? So usually in the interview process, it's giving them sort of some hypothetical things like, how many whiskeys could Tim Wilson drink before he passed out? And then how they break that problem down.
Do you have a standard set of those questions? Which I'm not going to ask you to share because would just
only
tip the
a
balance.
few of them are related to you
How
personally.
They're not all?
Yeah.
I was thinking there's the old how many pennies would fit in
How
this
many
room, but
Tim
how
Wilsons can you fit into 747s? Yeah. No. So those kinds of problems help you understand not that somebody's smart enough to just know the answer to that stuff, but how they attack the problem. Because that's so much of what we do is having a tenaciousness to go after the problem. The second thing is sort of just an innate intellectual curiosity, right? Whether that's something that comes through personality type or whatever, or it's learned. But they can show and demonstrate they've really kind of thought through things. And then lastly, probably critical thinking skills or lateral thinking skills. How can I apply experience and knowledge from one area to another?
So on the personality type, do you guys do like a personality profile as a part of
not
the
as
interview
part
process?
of the hiring process. Internally, when someone's part of search discovery, we use a book called Strengths Finders, which is
I wasn't
awesome.
asking you to plug that damn book.
I knew you. Well, I knew you love it though.
Is Leah Pica here? Does she already know what her strengths are? One of the newest hires. She does not know her strengths.
My strengths are on my LinkedIn profile.
See,
So
we get along.
You just went from being 5 feet dynamite to 4.5 feet dynamite. In my
what? No, I don't think so.
Awesome. What about you?
So,
Well, real quick, Michael, I want to follow up on your question.
Oh, okay.
When you ask, a question and try to gauge someone's problem-solving ability, that's all well and good, and you hear a lot of interviewers do that, but I don't know how to effectively evaluate that. Like, if someone's giving you an answer and, you see them go through that thought process, you see the wheels turn in their head, but then, how do you really evaluate what you like or what you don't like with, those kinds of responses? And I'll give up the microphone now because I've had it too much.
Yeah. Honestly, it has something to do with whether or not they themselves feel satisfied with it. Like, if they just end it, they're like, I've worked it out and it's this, and I don't think that they've kind of wrestled with it enough, then that tells me they're not going to pursue a problem as far as they need to pursue it sometimes.
But are you asking behavioral questions about tell me about a time that you have and then see how they respond to that?
Obviously, there's lots of other stuff you ask. You're trying to figure out culture, attitudinal fit, all these different things.
No. But I'm saying behavioral questions. When you're evaluating problems? So one of the problem-solving ways is we give them a problem. Here's a data set, and do you guys do that with certain roles or
not as much with analytics problems specifically. I used to do that. I used to give people a log file and tell them to tear it apart, but that's so many years ago. Nobody can
now
do
you just
that
grill
now.
them on what the different server response codes are and
be like, yeah, exactly. What is a 206 return code? Go.
I think that's Detroit.
So close.
Yeah.
As everyone else here knows, that's the partial success return code. Yeah, that's right. Very important to set that up as a filter in Web Trends so that you didn't get your PDF downloads. Yeah.
Oh,
That's right. In IE, exactly. That's old school right there, guys. All right.
I have a couple anecdotes
Yeah,
in the HR one.
go.
The first one is that we're not doing enough when we're hiring, again, because we build a lot of our own analysts. So we're not looking for a whole lot of do this use case. We look for a lot of lateral thinking, because I find that there's a lot of tools that are designed to do one thing, but if you spin them a little bit, you can do some. So we've used like paid search intelligence tools to actually help predict someone else's inventory. So that way their competitors can keep their product mix up. So we look for a lot of lateral thinking.
How do you actually evaluate that in an interview process?
Well, I just make them work for free. It's called an internship.
Okay.
But no, so we ask a lot of high-level questions about digital. Like we do a lot of e-commerce, so we'll pull up an e-commerce site and say, what do you think the primary and secondary goals are of this site? What are the kinds of things that you like? We kind of like to work someone through a problem to see how they respond and why they respond. But I had a couple client meetings this week in town, and one of them was with the CTO for a large publishing company, and they're trying to build their own analytics practice internally. And he said, what are the criteria for my one analyst that I should hire? And I said, you're $1 billion company, so you hire 3 people, because there's no criteria for one analyst. Because they'll hate their life and quit. And there are more recruiters than there are analysts. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. So,
We have another question here.
yep.
This is also related to hiring, which came up a lot at the conference. So the need for data scientists is high, and a lot of people have said, analysts, junior analysts can't fit that role or can't become that role. Is that true? And if so, where are the data scientists supposed to come from?
And what is a data scientist?
Yeah, I mean, historically, we've had a hard time defining the term data science. If you recollect, like episode 2 or 3 or something.
I think I called them the Y2K programmers of 2015 last year.
Well, I mean, so it's a really good question, one where we're going to go all around and not answer. And no, you have to. That's probably correct, because how I define data scientists, probably not how anyone else does, but my personal definition is pretty specific to a certain skill set with a high degree of programming capability, statistical methods, and those kinds of things, and experience with sort of platforms and things like that kind of help with dealing with large data sets in kind of meaningful ways, so R and Python and those kinds of things. Those are kind of the walls that I build around data scientists, and then I go back to the same thing with what the other answer was, sort of how do you fit, how do you solve problems, and how do you critically think.
So I think that definition, which I think is the future of this entire profession. It's actually, and I'll try to work it out in a coherent
Says
way.
the guy who's been tinkering with R lately.
Well, and the eMetrics Chicago in June, I have committed to trying to actually explain and articulate that. And fun little eMetrics social media win on the way here. I was at the BART station at the airport, and I got a little notification that one of my sort of light bulbs going on is a guy named Michael Healy, who works for Michael Helbling, and that can't get confusing ever. But he was one stop up on the train and heading my way. And so I got to actually ride from BART all the way here and to downtown with Michael. And he's one of the guys that I've realized that skill set is coming. I think that the simpler world of we're doing line graphs and we're showing trends and we're just building a dashboard, I think all of that is going to shift to be much more technical in 5 to 10 years.
Disagree.
And I think the people who get really excited about that,
Disagree.
what you disagree?
Please continue.
Oh.
I do disagree.
Can you, which mic number is that? Can you shut that off? So I may be dead wrong, but I feel like it's the analysts who are gonna I think our last episode, they're talking all over each other. No, we just screwed up the editing, but this time we're talking all over each other. So I think they'll have to, and I'm old enough that I could probably coast it out doing, simple correlations and line charts and cluster or not cluster analysis, scatter plots. If I could do a cluster analysis, then I'd be
I
set.
ran away to management, so saw that coming. And
So you disagree?
A little bit, yeah. I think that So you know the whole history of web analytics, like log files and then marketing found out, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to do the routine again. But I think now, if you take
there was an episode with Jim Stern where we went through the history of web analytics.
And a whole bottle of wiki. But, so...
Wiki?
Wiki. I have a beer here. So I've been awake for 3 days. So here's a clearly bounded problem. And I'm a liberal arts level analyst. Like, I'm a me analyst. I'm someone who wants to talk people through defining why there's a problem and then get enough to explain how to, fix it. I'm going to approach that problem in a very, very specific way. It'll be a Tableau way. It'll be a interviewing stakeholders way. Now, let's say I'm an engineer. I'm going to try and hammer that nail with a completely different approach, and I'm going to try and engineer my way through it. And I'm going to use R, and I'm going to use Redshift. This whole discipline that we're in that had a relatively straightforward track, and a lot of people came from a more technical background and had to learn more of the storytelling and the visualization. We now have two different disciplines, but I think we're trying to solve a lot of the same problems, but like humanities versus engineering,
But I think we had traditionally eMetrics, Jim Stern gets some people from very large companies dealing with very large data sets. I'm going to say eBay, and now I'm blanking on, Twitter, right? We had various people. And there have been times in the past where it's like, you look around in the room and you're like, how many people have the luxury of dealing with just do a 1% test. Everybody does a 1% test and you get a gazillion things to work with. And that was kind of like, you needed these data scientists to deal with these large data sets. But I think we're shifting, and the tools are shifting. Google Analytics is shifting this way, that now a more modest set of traffic, you can start to get a lot more data because you can get a lot more granular. And you can say, I can roll up this atomic level data and do your performance measurement dashboard, and I can have a tool that helps me do that. But now I've got a broader set. I've got a more detailed, larger set of data with less traffic because I'm not just dealing with the aggregated data that Google Analytics was providing. Or Web Trends, right? Web Trends was all aggregation. I mean, that's how they stored it. That's what they put it in. So I think, I may be dead wrong, I think 10 years from now, we'll be looking back and saying, remember the days when you could log in to googleanalytics.com or google.com/analytics and you could... you had 3 chart types, and you could screen capture that and drop in. Please never screen capture from any web analytics tool. But so I don't know if that answers it, but I think it's people analysts need to shift that way, or they're going to have limited careers.
So I think there was one more question over there, and then we got to wait and see how far over Jim Stern's going to let us go.
Shut up.
What advice would you give as the most important things a researcher should be doing to assert their value to their clients?
Always be right and always have a $sign in the last sentence.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, walk around with those things that show, like the research that shows the ROI of an analyst is, $300 to one or $1,300 to one. That's great material.
No. Go to salary.com.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's true. It's about tying your work to value that drives the business, right? So how you connect with whatever business you're doing, and honestly, for digital analytics, it's a bridge we all have to learn to cross. Unless you're a pure play web company, you have to translate the digital metrics into metrics that correlate with business outcomes. So that translation process is really what drives that value, because when you go and report to the CMO, while they may be interested in bounce rate momentarily, I'm pretty sure their bonus is not based on that.
You will die on the sword of interesting.
Right?
So I think that's, the always tie it to dollars. It's
true.
It's true and awesome. But the fact, and we were talking, Adam Greco was talking about, he's like, he was saying if your site you're on is a brochureware site because the nature of your business, which to me I heard is if you have a consumer packaged goods site. But I think there is a more practical that anyone can do, which is figure out what's keeping them up at night. Or if they're not that passionate about their job, just figure out, having that conversation, getting inside their head and trying to figure out what's the question you can answer that they would say, this is useful to me. Because there are plenty of people who are at a level below the macro, I have to tie all this stuff to revenue.
I didn't say revenue, I said value.
Okay, so I agree with you, and as usual, disagree with Jim.
Yeah.
But Jim, as a guy who came from a sales background, I think there's a lot that he says when it comes to like the active listening. What are you? I mean, you are trying. And it's cliche, like what's keeping you up at night, but that's the thing. To what can the data provide that person says, great, I now have that information and I can move forward, and that's figuring out what they're being incentivized on, what they're grappling with, and it's not always tiable to a dollar.
Yeah, it is.
How do you do social? How do you do social media? I mean, there's a legitimate reason to be on social that is for companies that otherwise you'd be saying is my social media analytics says you need to just tweet direct response calls to action and turn it into a direct response channel. And I think there's a way to approach marketing that says no, you need to think a little broader than that.
In most cases, I mean, you went with the most pure brand marketing example, and that's fine, and we could chip away at it. But
that's because you're wrong.
Because I'm wrong.
I don't know how to tie that to that.
But an example is a customer service portal for a company that does sell things online. So you log in and you enter your question or you chat with live help. Most people don't measure those as a successful session. They measure did the site go down, or like it's generic technical metrics, right? There is a clearly defined cost for a telephone interaction with a customer. And if you say, if someone does this list of 5 things after they log in, they successfully completed something that meant they didn't call us, I have $1, right? If you have a company that does a lot of consumer packaged goods, you do those people in the store and they're like, taste my disgusting cake or whatever. I mean, you're out there talking to people. If you can monetize what it costs to have someone in a particular community, you can subset Twitter traffic by community and be able to say, instead of putting people in stores, we did this and saved this much money.
I'm glad his drop the mic sound effect was not caught on the mic.
It's not my mic.
All right. You two quit fighting long enough, and maybe Jim will let us take one more question. I feel like maybe right back there was one right there.
That was like the second hand to go up by a millisecond.
Yeah.
The poor guy hasn't gotten to ask the...
Well, that's
because I don't have any alcohol. So
it's over there.
Is it empty?
So my question was kind of based on what you guys were just talking about around social media and analytics and trying to show value of that. And so I was just curious to what your thoughts about social media analytics in the industry, anybody that you see that's doing it well, things like that. Because I have the same issue going on within my organization around, what's the value of engaging some of these consumers via Twitter or via other platforms? What are we getting from that?
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and plug a book by this guy named John Lovett called Social Media Measurement Secrets. Because I think that was the first place I saw somebody talk about social media in terms of what you were hoping the social media channel or platform was going to achieve for your business, and then measuring outcomes based on that. And I think that's been the most common sense way I've seen.
And I'm a little familiar with John. I work with him. I was a fanboy, but specifically chapters 4 and 5. Part of what using the idea of causal modeling of saying, we're on Instagram or we're on Twitter, and ultimately we want to have a business value. We want to have a dollar outcome. We need to get in a room with smart marketers, with the analyst, and say, what is the map? There probably is value in being on Instagram, but we should figure out what the map is from somebody engaging with Instagram. How do we logically link that to business value? And let's draw that out. And now let's go as far downstream as we can with what we measure. And we're still leaving a leap because you can't get the ROI of a tweet. But having that kind of alignment discussion of saying, we were doing brand marketing out of home in the 1950s, and it wasn't a waste of money. There was value there. And in a lot of ways, a lot of social media is brand marketing, akin to billboards, in my mind. That's part of it. Now, you can have direct response as well.
Or customer service or
Right.
engagement or outreach or whatever. I mean,
He outlines like or driving product innovation.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're a brand and you're on Snapchat, like you're not looking for a direct ROI from that. It all disappears in 8 seconds, right? So that's a whole different thing that you're doing. But you're building brand awareness, so that's brand, and you should use brand measures to measure it. So yeah.
Sir, does the social media work that you do lead to clicks to the website, or is it purely like, look at me, I'm Sandra D, I'm on the web?
Both clicks to the website and
Are there online conversions that you can tie dollar values to?
Yep. So
Damn it.
So now you get to look at social as people. It's almost like display. People that saw it, which I don't think is worth very much.
I think social has some value.
But displayed. Okay, I'm not touching that. So someone interacted with us in social, and there is a very finite value to that and a very big value to the agency that sold it to you in the first place.
yeah, we're doing that, and that's actually a plus that we're able to tie that back in. But then there's this other piece, which is the organic piece that is really important to the CMO from a brand perspective about what what our engagements are bringing back to us from a value standpoint.
So I'm going to throw one other quick one in there. If you go and say, you're a CMO, do you want to get our brand in front of our potential buyers? And the answer is yes. Do you think we should do that where our potential buyers are spending their time? And the answer is yes. So you can say, I mean, to me, that is a no-brainer that there is a ton of industry research that says people are spending their time more on these social channels. That doesn't fully answer the question, but it's almost, there was the, what is it? Imagine the spoon. I'm going to botch my Matrix reference.
There is no spoon.
There's no spoon. There's no spoon. Shit. The Matrix I should be able to get.
Credibility destroyed.
It was a tall pour of Elijah
This
Craig.
is the first time Tim tried for a pop culture reference.
Yeah, and
he blew it.
It will never happen again.
Oh, man.
But do you want to not be on Twitter? Like that just makes no sense. So there's kind of this basis of, if we can do it cost effectively, at a bare minimum, we need to be there because that's where our consumers are. I mean, maybe they're not, but in many, many brands' cases, they're on LinkedIn because it's B2B.
I also like rolling up all your social channels. People tend to go, we're killing it on Twitter, and this is Facebook, but to some extent, social is social. And if you can kind of roll up your active listening community, and emphasis on active, right, into one group, it's interesting. If you can trend on a weekly basis in a report that people care about, and you saw some great examples earlier on nice reports, if you can consistently show that certain activities lead to a larger or smaller active listening community, then you're starting to show value, especially when you can connect it to conversions in the site.
Awesome. Good question.
Marginal answer.
Ladies and gentlemen,
all right.
This has been the Digital Analytics Power Hour live, brought to you by eMetrics Summit. Please, a warm thank you to Tim Wilson, Jim Kane, Michael Helbling, Digital Analytics Power Hour.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to join the conversation on Facebook or Twitter. We welcome your comments and questions. Facebook.com/Analytics Hour or at Analytics Hour on Twitter.
So smart guys wanted to fit in, so they made up a term called analytics. Analytics don't work.
That's all you get, because it's a podcast. I turn it on.
Rock flag and eMetrics.